Hello and welcome to Untwisted Threads. This is Isager Tweed. Spun and dyed in Ireland, this 70% wool, 30% mohair yarn features 24 colors. The color that we chose is a dark brown called walnut. This 50-gram hank with 200 meters or 219 yards works up as a fingering to sport weight yarn. The suggested gauge on 2.25 to 3.25 millimeter needles is 27 to 32 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. We will be using a 3.5 millimeter needle size for our swatch. In today's video, we're going to review and score Isager Tweed using our 5 categories, which are availability, softness, traction, durability, and cost, to help you decide if this is the best yarn for you and your next project. Stay tuned till the end for a few pattern recommendations as well. Let's get started. For availability, we give Isager Tweed a score of 3.5 out of 5. Originating in Denmark, Isager has a bit of a footprint here in the US. Although this yarn isn't available on any major craft websites here in the US or even the UK that we know of, there are quite a few purchasing options from smaller craft shops. For softness, we give it a score of 3.4 out of 5. Right off the bat, I noticed that this yarn felt kind of dry with long white mohair fibers. Now this has nothing to do with softness, and it was probably user error, but I had the worst time trying to wind this yarn into a cake. It took me winding it twice, and I had to have help, so I wasn't exactly off to the greatest start with this yarn. It wasn't initially the softest to me, but as I kept working with it, it did seem to get softer in my opinion. In comparison, it is softer than Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt, but not quite as soft as Cascade 220. I would say it's pretty comparable to Rowan Kid Classic. The micron count for mohair is lower than wool because it is typically softer, around 23 to 28 microns, and Peruvian Highland wool is near the end of that range at about 27. So I would put this at maybe a 27 micron count. Now I don't know exactly what type of wool is used in this yarn. I imagine that the goal of this yarn was to add a bit of softness to the rustic feeling of the wool by including the mohair. It wasn't the softest yarn, but it wasn't too rustic for my sensitive skin either. But it was after blocking my swatch that it really blew me away. You may remember my thoughts when working with Noro's Silk Garden Solo. It was after I blocked my swatch that I was really impressed, and that's exactly what happened with this one too. It kind of felt like magic because it did not feel like the same yarn that I was working with at the beginning. With the combination of the two fibers, wool and mohair, this yarn is bound to keep you very warm and will help to keep your body temperature consistent. For traction, we give it a score of 3.5 out of 5. Mohair on its own is not the easiest to work with, but mixed with the wool, the fibers of the yarn weren't really difficult to work with in my opinion. It didn't slide around too much and had what I think is a pretty reasonable amount of grip on my nickel-plated needles. However, it is the varying thicknesses that caused me to slow down a little bit as I was working with it. This slightly irregular homespun looking yarn is just something that I'm not as accustomed to working with. As I mentioned before, I did notice the yarn as I was working with it, but it wasn't so rustic that it was sticking to my skin as I was knitting. Because of its halo of fibers and irregularities, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a beginner fiber to start with. And also a note, after blocking my swatch, I just didn't see a great stitch definition that I was hoping for. For durability, we give it a score of 3.5 out of 5. This yarn is a single ply, meaning the fibers aren't held together very tightly and will come apart when you pull on it. Now disregarding the fibers for just a second, the spin of this yarn gives it a lower score for durability in my opinion, because similar to the looser spun of Lopi yarns, it is delicate and can come apart easily. Now, wool is strong and mohair is strong, so together they possess great strength and would probably make a strong finished garment. But the process of knitting or getting to that finished garment will require some patience and ease of tension. And because this yarn is not superwash treated, you will need to hand wash it as well. For cost, we give it a score of 3.5 out of 5. For being a 50-gram hank, you can expect to pay $13 US. So for a size medium sweater, you're looking at a cost of approximately $78. So for a yarn that allows you to knit with both wool and mohair combined, and you not having to purchase the wool and mohair skeins on your own, I think it's a decent price for what you're getting. Overall, we give Isager Tweed a score of 3.48 out of 5. If you're wanting to try out using mohair and wool, but don't want your fabric to be heavy, this yarn may be a great option. Its mohair, tweed flex, and irregular fiber size remind me of that ideal rustic sweater that you would wear in the autumn taking a stroll through the English countryside. So we had a little look on Ravelry and wanted to share a few pattern recommendations with you, hopefully to inspire you if you're wanting to use this yarn. The first pattern is a brand new release called All Yellow by Meiju Knits. It is a simple, basic cardigan that always fills a need in your wardrobe. It has casual sizing and a regular fit. The cardigan is worked seamlessly from the top down with a raglan yoke and sleeve shaping. The body of the cardigan can easily be modified if preferred. It is size inclusive, featuring a range from 2 extra small to 5X or a finished bust measurement of 34.5 inches to 70.5 inches. The second pattern is called Rand by Maja Karlsson. These mittens are worked from the cuff to the ends in the round. They feature a ribbed cuff, rounded edge shape, and pearl bump stripes. These mittens I think would be a great use for this yarn, as the mohair fibers would give them a bit of a luxurious look to them, maybe even similar to cashmere or angora. The stitches and fibers would be able to melt and work together to keep your hands warm in colder months. The last pattern is the Jeol sweater by Aegyoknit. It was designed using this yarn and is held double with the Isager silk mohair. It is worked from top down without any need for additional finishing. German short rows are used to shape the neckline and is worked simultaneously as the neck rib. Afterwards, the shoulders are formed with increases, and then the back and front are knitted separately before they are joined together. The colorwork pattern on the body and sleeves are knitted by chart. I think the boxy and simple fit of this pattern suits the yarn well, and the extra silk mohair allows the stitches to blend and melt together nicely. Have you used Isager Tweed yarn before? What yarn would you like for us to do a review on next? We would love to hear your thoughts and recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed our review, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.